20 years ago, a seed was planted and cared for. We painstakingly nurtured it and weathered it against adversity until one day it blossomed and the fruits of our labor began to show. Today, millions have learned, shared, and been inspired by what our community has produced. We proudly serve 21 million users from 204 countries in 2019. For our 85,000 technical articles, code samples, and videos, our 450,000 forum questions, and our highly anticipated conferences and events featuring keynote panels, live streams, and industry experts and influencers. We recognize and reward members for their dedication to the community. Through content contributions and mentorships, we ranked number 2,620 in the world with a reach of millions across our social media channels. Thanks to you, our global community of software and data developers grows stronger each day. For more information, visit us at CSharpCorner.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Growth Mindset Show. My name is Mahesh Chand. I'm a founder of CSharpCorner and I'm host of Growth Mindset Show. If you are joining us first time, welcome to the show. If you are our regular visitor, welcome back to the show. Well, that's great. Bhaskar, welcome to the show. Everybody who is joining us, as you may know already, if you don't know, I will repeat it again. This show is focused around you, our audience who's watching it. Our goal is to help you share what we do in software development. And then this Build Better Software's focus is how do we build better software. And my goal really with the show is I bring my 22 years of experience, what we learn, I learn and we learn as a collectively, as a group and company, working with different clients, working with different teams, working with different, users and so on and so forth. We also, between these shows, I will also bring some guests, and these guests on every show have, they will come and talk about different topics. They are experienced. They have done this for many, many years, like, 20 plus years experience. So they will also share their experience. But the end goal is really to educate you on certain things. And if you have any questions, you just ask questions. Make sure any questions you have, ask it. If you agree, disagree, you can also say that. If you don't like what we're saying or you're disagreeing that, please feel free to share it, because that's what we can then say, agree, disagree, right? If you like these shows and you think your friends and family can benefit from it, or coworkers, please share with them. Share on social media, share on your whatever medium, text message, WhatsApp you do. Let them know that this show is here for you. Today, we have excited guests. Good morning, welcome back, welcome to the show, everybody. Looks like Atul, welcome to the show. Nancy, everybody, looks like people are commenting. Chaman, you are frequent visitors. Sean is here too. He is our rock star. Megha Gupta, Pradeep, welcome to the show. Looks like Rajat Tyagi is also here. Schwam is here. Well, guess what? We have full show, looks like. We got a studio full. Awesome, guys. Good to see you here. It feels good. It feels good that when I know that some people are already here with me. And last week, we launched something exciting. Last week, we also start inviting our audience in the show. So in the second half of the show, we will invite you in the studio, and you can also go live with us. You can go with the video, or you can go with the audio. I think video is preferable if you have, video. But yeah, you come join us the show. We will add you to the live stream, and you can just hang out with us in last 10 minutes and 15 minutes or so, or whenever Simon says, yeah, we are good to go. All right, so let's get started show. let's load our screens. So as you know, if you are joining us back, you may already know that this is Build Better Software. This series, we had series one last year. We started that was on growth mindset. This is part of same growth mindset, but this is a series two. In that, our focus is build better software. All right, Bhaskar has a good comment. So that's great. That's good to know, Bhaskar. Definitely take a break, drink tea, drink coffee, grab whatever you feel like and hang out with us. If you want to come join live show in the second half, just we will bring you in. Just let us know. Um, One other thing I want to ask you guys before we start this show is we want to encourage guys more, girls more, asking more questions, and we want to give away some cool prizes. So we need some ideas on cool prizes. What do you think is a cool prize that will motivate you to get more involved in the show? Right? We want you to get involved in the show. It should be more like you are sitting next to us and asking questions. So more people ask questions, we're gonna figure out that how they can win some cool, I don't know, prizes. I don't know, goodies, some tickets, some things. Like you watch listen to some radios, and radio guys will give some tickets to movies or games or something. So we kind of need to figure this out, and I don't know what people prefer. So anything, you have any ideas, suggestions, feel free to post on the in this comments. All right, so let's talk about build better software. So when we are building better software is a, and when I talk to people and I explain, software is nothing but it's the same as building a, you can compare that building in a big building or house or something, right? It's like same thing. You have to decide what kind of house you need, how many rooms, what kind of material you want, who's going to live in it, what kind, windows, doors, and so on and so forth. So the software architecture is different. I mean, it may be different what from the physical aspect, but idea is same, right? So in software we have different teams, we have different how to build them, technologies, we have different audience and users, and then we also have stakeholders, we have people who are going to fund this and all that. So we are going to, in the series, we're going to continue talking about everything around those, and in the end, by the time this is done, we will cover every aspect of it, of the software development. All right, so as you know, my name is Mahesh Chand. We can go to the next screen now. Today's guest is Andy. Andy's, he's already been on the show. He is, again, very experienced. He's AVP in a company. He also organizes a conference for developers called Tech Bash, and he's several times Microsoft MVP. So as you can see, we'll talk to Andy, very soon. We'll bring him in the show as well. Next screen. So before we bring our guest, let's recap a little bit. We started the show last week. In the last episode, it was introduction. But if anybody knows, he joined. I mean, if you joined that show, you know that our focus was we only talk about three key things there. That if you're building a software, the goal of that should be three things. You have the highest quality, lowest cost, and shortest time, regardless of what business, what company you're building for. Is it a big company, is it a startup? It doesn't matter. Everybody has this one goal, and these are the three things you have to always keep in mind. Once you keep this always in, once you keep these 3 points in your mind, you will end up building better software, and that's really our goal. So highest quality, lowest cost, shortest time. Aditi, welcome to the show. Hopefully, you are enjoying the show. You will enjoy the show. If you like it, please feel free to comment, share on your social media. We are great to have you here on the show. So yeah, let's bring our guest Andy. Let's not delay. We just start talking about different things and bring guest to the show. Hey Andy, good morning. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
All good, all good. You looking sharp as usual.
I really like your background. The color, I mean, I was looking at this. I'm like, I like your color scheme. the pictures behind you. Very nice. You're like in the professional studio there.
Yeah, listen, it's every picture is tells its own story. They are quotes actually. I when I look at my favorite quotes of different leaders, I found those quotes and I found the pictures with the quotes, and then I order on Amazon, as you know, and then I ordered these frames and I made and hang myself. So some are crooked because I'm really not a big architect when it comes to handyman. I'm not great at that. So let's take one quote for example, right? Um, This is my favorite. If you will reach, you will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Right? So
Okay.
every code is it, which means really, as a if we are trying to be something big in our life, we have bigger goals. We cannot pay attention to little things, otherwise we'll be just stuck there.
Yeah, don't get distracted, right? There's always so
Exactly.
many things coming our way.
Yeah.
Roadblocks. Some of them are negative, some of them are even positive things, right?
Yeah.
That dog might just be barking to say, "Hi, I'm a cute little dog," right? It doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's a mean dog. But if
Yeah.
you stop all the time, that's a really good quote. Who's that quote from?
That's from Churchill.
Ah, Churchill. Okay. That's a
So
good one. I like
I
it.
got Churchill, I got Mother Teresa, I got Nelson Mandela, Bill Gates also. This is Bill Gates' favorite quote is that if we look ahead, what is basically quote is that if we look ahead, the leaders will of next century will be the one who empower other people, which you
Yeah.
are empowering other people. So you're going to be a big leader in the this next century, next 10 decades. I mean, next
Well, I
decade.
might have to shave a little. In the next 10 decades?
Hey,
That's a
no,
lot
just
of
one
time.
decade. I mean, I was trying to say 10 years. But regardless, I saw your picture and looks like you got vaccinated. Congratulations.
Thanks. I saw you had that picture on the slide before. That was a great picture. Yeah, listen, I'm happy to be vaccinated. I'm hoping that we can all start to return back to some sort of normalcy. It's been a really hard year for a lot of people, and I'm sure people that are watching this now or watching it in the future, whether they're watching like the rerun, this is really hard on a lot of people. I love your topic of growth mindset because what you did in the last series of episodes was really great, focusing on that kind of stuff because we're all going through tough times, and it's different for everybody, whether it be COVID or work or whatever you have going on. And embracing that growth mindset is such a powerful tool, and it's really great that you, Mahesh, that you try to share that with other people. Really great.
No, I mean, thank you. And I think you're doing same way too. You're just doing different ways. You have your own show, you're organizing conferences, even coming on the show, giving your time. It's not easy, right? You know how it is. We are always families home, working and all that. So really appreciate you coming back to the show and giving back. Um, so let's start. Today's our topic is actually, and what I'm going to do is today's format. We're going to have a screen. We're going to have a screen slide, and we're going to read through that, and I will, explain what I meant on that screen because I wrote really last night. Well, good. The best part of this show is this build better software is that I don't need to learn anything, and I don't need to prepare. What I do is at the night before I put those my thoughts on a slide, and we then talk about it. And again, everybody who's watching the show, looks like more people joined. Welcome to the show. This is Growth Mindset Show. In this episode 2, we are talking about understanding user and user requirements when you are building software. Today we have a guest, Andy Schwam. I shouldn't call you. Either you are Swami or Schwam, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
Swami or
yeah,
Schwam, but not Andy
yeah.
Schwami.
Because in India, Swami is a big thing. It's like Swami is the guy who's like a priest, but he's like, so this guy right here, he's a Swami. He was a Swami Vivekananda. So
Right.
Swami is more like a title you get when you are like teaching a lot of people growth mindset and giving your life dedication towards people. So maybe you are a Swami, and they definitely have a beard, most of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let me back to this. Everybody who's watching the show, our goal really is to share our experiences, what we learn, how we do things, what worked for us, what didn't work for us. It does not mean whatever I'm saying is really I'm right. I may be wrong. So if you have something, please share with us. And there's no question or comment is right or wrong. Please feel free to jump in. All right. So last episode, one more time, our focus was when you are thinking of building better software, your focus is always highest quality, lowest cost, shortest time. You agree with that, Andy?
Well, I think that's typically the thing that we're working towards, right?
Yeah.
Often it's like the golden triangle of software development, right? Like time, money, and quality are
Yeah.
they're often considered together, and typically you tend to sacrifice one to increase another, which
You can't
is
have all. Yeah, I agree. You cannot
you
just
can't have it
get it
all,
done
right?
everything. Yeah. Yes.
But the one you have at number one, highest quality, right? To me, that's the most important, right? And again, it's a give and take. It's a little bit of a sacrifice when you try to accomplish all those things. It's hard.
Yeah, 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 and then sometimes I work with these startups, right? As I mentioned before, we cannot just focus on quality because they have 3 months to go live. Sometimes you have to just release, and that's where we're really going to talk on these next steps. So let's go to next screen. So today, what are we going to cover is actually, I want to talk about how the software development start really in the beginning, because a lot of people watching this show, they are just software developers, right? They just join a company and they just become a part of the team, and then they're assigned this requirements. Hey, you have to write this code, or you have to build the screen, or you have to build this API. So they are kind of, they may not be engaged in the beginning, like the really beginning, how this universe started, right? So when think of software, so everybody watching it, when think of software, usually there is a business requirement. Usually our business or individual have an idea. Most cases, let's take in our case enterprise. Company may have a requirement that they want to build a product for a bank, right? So usually, or they want to build a website, let's just simple it. So there is a business and there is a need and there is a requirement for that. And then second part is experts are the guys who are in the beginning, sit down with the business. What happened to Andy? You can keep him, and you can Simon, you can keep Andy here. Then there's people who sit down with business and they figure it out, how are they going to build this software. And then after that, there's a process comes software development life cycle, which we're not going to talk a lot in this. But third point is the one that's really we are going to talk a lot in this show today is the end user, the role of end users, and the writing and understanding those requirements. So if you are joining us and you're not involved with customers direct or users, that's where we're really going to talk about in this episode. Next. So where did Andy go? Is he coming back? All right. So let's think about in the beginning, right? So in the beginning, when you start building a new software, there is a business comes with there's a problem, right? You can take an example. There's usually a problem. For example, if bank comes and decides to build a new website where customers can log in and look at their bank balances, right? And then they can send money back and forth. So this is a kind of business problem. Business problem actually goes to somebody. They talk to somebody who is mostly architect level or project management level, or sometimes bigger the companies can be CTO, right? It can be CIO, depends on the who has that responsibility in the company. Business will say, or that we need this. So business will say, hey, we need a website where um, our customers can log in and they can do these certain things. So they will sit down with this person, say CTO, for example. In companies, CTO, Chief Technology Officer, is the one who actually looks at the new products, right? And they decide, is this in our, can we do this? How are we going to do it? How many teams we need? So on and so forth. And then there comes the consumers. Consumers are the people who are actually going to use the website or the app. So, and then fourth point is then these are some of the people who are engaged in the early discussions before a software actually starts. Hey, you're back. What happened?
Classic internet. I don't know. It just totally went out, and now I'm back.
So it's happening a lot too. Like internet is in and out these days. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Sorry about
Yes.
that.
No worries, no worries. Hey, welcome back. I see Aditi, Saloni. I see Prat- Pratiksha. Welcome to the show. Looks like we have people joining us. Welcome to the show. This is I see first time. A lot of people joining us first time. Today we are talking about understanding user and user requirements. That's the first step of building a software. And today we have our guest here, Andy. So Andy, I was talking about that beginning when the universe start for a software. What happens? Usually business has a problem, and then there's an expert, let's say CTO or architect or project manager, depending on the company. They business goes to them, say, hey, we need a website, what can we do? And then there is obviously consumers involved, like this website, for example. A bank will go to its CTO that we need a new website where people can log in and transfer money. And then there's probably more stakeholders and decision makers involved in that. Anything you want to spend time on this screen? What do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, what you said is I guess that's the case, right? Usually you get this problem. Hopefully the problem is a little more thought out. I think it kind of comes in two ways. By the time it gets to maybe developers, sometimes it's just this idea and they really haven't thought it out. And then other times it's really been worked through more with the experts and the consumers, other stakeholders, and things like that. It's really important to get buy-in from a few different people to make sure that you've got a good solid idea, I guess.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. So, and then once I think business decides. Business is kind of deciding. First, obviously, they have to look at it. Can we do that, right? Can we do that? Okay, what is going to take us to even build this web? For example, I'll take an example, right? We have a client. Client comes to us and they go to first their CTO, CIO. They're like, we need this new app, mobile app. It will have AR, VR. And CTO say, oh, we don't have any, developers for this. Let's go hire. So they come to Mindcracker and they are Mindcracker, right? So business kind of already had an idea what they want. They already had a kind of problem or the need of a new app. And they come to us and we sit down with them and try to understand on the high level what they're trying to build. So in this case, we kind of become the expert. And then we go to consumers, like, let's understand who are the end users who are going to consume this app. And then there's people in addition, stakeholders, like, okay, who's going to approve this on the so and so forth, right? So that's kind of big picture. In the big, before even you start writing requirements, these things happen before that. So let's go to the next screen now. Yeah. So, this is at the wrong spot. This should be actually in the end, Simon. I think I screwed this up. Can we bring the screen later? Oh, no, I think we missed something here. There's actually a couple of screens have missed. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's go back. We kind of missed. So I kind of messed up. So there's two things we are going to talk about today, Andy, and this is user requirements and the role of users, end users. How, when you are building better software, how they should be kind of get involved in software development. So you want to share something like when you start a new project in your company, how does requirement come? You don't have to share a lot of details, but on high level.
Yeah. Obviously, it's different for every project, right? Which is always the case, right? We always want to say there's no one way to do this. There's no correct way. There's a lot of ways to do these things. Usually an idea comes in to the team, and then we start to, first of all, we want to identify who the end users are. It might not even be obvious at first, who are the end users, and are there different end users with different requirements, right? In other words, you might have an admin type of end user. You might have a final customer type of end user. And then you want to start to think about if you can identify those end users and talk with them. It's great to find out, well, what would they expect? How would they expect this application to work, right? And Along the way, one of the things I like to try to focus on is the concept, and I'm sure, Mahesh, you're familiar with the concept of the MVP,
Yep.
minimum viable product, right?
Yes.
Because what happens is immediately is end users start going, well, what would be great, Mahesh? Can we, while you're doing this, can we bring in some of that other stuff? We want all these other features. And one of the things you have to do is say, well, hold on, right? Let's stay focused. Let's stay focused on the minimum viable product, which is to say, it sounds kind of funny because what is the least we can do, right? Yeah. Of course, we want to do the most we can do, but focusing on minimum viable product, what is the least we can do to be successful, right?
Yeah. So let me, I'm going to actually move on exactly, stay on the same topic, right? So next one, before one more, Simon, one more screen. So let's talk about, looks like we're going to go to the end user, right? So let's define end user. Who are the end users of application, right? Usually these are the people who are customers. They are paid or not, doesn't matter. They can be within the company users. They are kind of a customer. They are the end users, right? So if I'm building an app for a bank and I'm the bank's customer, I become the end user, right? So when I'm involved in these projects, I highly recommend any client we work with that we want to really get those end users. Doesn't have to be everybody. If there are like 50 people who are going to use this application, enterprise application in a company, we at least want 2 people from that group as a part of our early discussions, right? When we are these kind of writing requirements. So there are some of these things, right? If I have to get involved in users and, during the life cycle, obviously they have to help with the requirement gathering. You agree with that? We're going to spend a little time on each of these, these topics.
Yeah, I think they should help in requirement gathering. They're not going to have the expertise of requirement gathering. And so we want to be careful here. And I think I know what you mean when you say that they're going to help with the requirement gathering, but we don't want to treat them as a BA or, a business analyst or something like that. We need to be skilled at drawing the right requirements out from them, but they should certainly have a lot of input into that. That's what I think.
And all we're trying to do is, everybody watching, is in this part of this process when we are meeting these end users, is really, we're just trying to understand their problem and what are they going to use this application for and how they're going to use it, right? Are they going to use at work, or are they going to use anytime? Are they going to use on mobile app? What exactly will they do that, right? If they already have an existing application running, are we building that new, improving that product? If that, how are they doing now, right? So for example, we work with a, City of New York. City of New York, they were doing a lot of manual work on paper, like signing papers, putting file cabinets and all that. So any contract will come. So we end up building like a digital solution for that. So for that, we had to go and understand their day-to-day life. Like, okay, this is your office. Where do you keep documents? Who sends you these documents? Who signs them? And then after file cabinet, how long they stay there, when they do move to go to the archive library. So that's kind of the thing, that this, what I mean is, when, we need help with requirement gathering, really, we're just kind of sitting down with understanding their work, how they do, what they will do, and what else we expect from them, right? You agree with that?
Yeah. One of the things you have to be really careful with when talking to end users, and part of this goes to making sure you pick the right, you mentioned, if you have 50 users, 100 users, 1,000 users, you're only going to pick a few to engage with on a daily basis or on a regular basis. And you want to be careful how you pick them. One of the things you have to be really careful with when dealing with end users is I don't know what to call it. Maybe I would call it their bias with the current process, right? Yes. And their comfort level with the current process. And what I find happens a lot of times, they try to force isn't maybe the right word, but force some of the constraints of the old way of doing things onto the new system. And we always want to encourage them to think differently. right?
Yes.
How can we do this differently? Just because the old way, you got something came into the city of New York, and maybe the process was that someone had to stamp it, and then someone had to hand it to another person, and they have to approve it, and then the third person, and so each person has to do different things along the way. Is there an opportunity to improve the process? Do we really need all those steps along the way? Maybe we do, but maybe, what we get into is people say, well, we have to do it that way. You have to give it to the first person, the second person, the third person. Why? Well, I've been working here for 15 years. And when I started, that's the way they told me to do it. They said, you got to hand it to the first person and then the second person and the third person. And we need to make sure we ask certain questions along the way. Why do we need to do that way? Right. And so it's great to have them help with the requirement gathering, but we also need to be, careful at how we extract the information from them. And I hope that helps.
Yeah. And I've been through that all the time. We go through that. Like, you try to give them new ideas. They're like, well, not really. We are doing this way. Oh, I like Excel. She's typing it. Hey, can you build the UI look like Excel? Right. So I 100% agree with you. Listen, and nobody wants to learn new things. Then it comes to us, the people who are building the software, to kind of show them, convince them that, and also prove the management too, like, this is you're doing right now. It takes you 3 days to go from this step 1 to step 5. But if we build this and you start using that, it's going to take you 3 hours. Right? Obviously, there's a learning curve there. And that's where it comes our second part is called participate in ideation, right? So we just sit down with them, draw things on the board, try to explain them. In back to that first question is that when we try to build, in its perfect example, when we try to build something for iPad and it was touch, they're like, yeah, I don't like touch. I like still like, the typing and all that. So those problems will always come, right? So we need to find the users who are willing to learn, and also they know latest technologies. They love to adapt new things, right? They will help us because they can even bring their own ideas. I'll give you one more example before we move on. We were building a system for UPenn for hospital, right? University of Pennsylvania. So we interviewed this one doctor. He's big surgeon. He's always carrying copy and pen. Any touch idea, iPad idea we gave him, he's like, nope, I like to write in copy and pen. Then we found another doctor. He's younger. He's like 40, 38 some years old, very tech savvy. He's like, I want everything on iPad. So we're like, okay, this is our guy. So that's how we need to first. Yeah, go ahead.
At the same time, you have to be prepared that you're going to build the software. You found your guy that you think's the guy, right? The younger one in this case. Yeah. But you have to know that when you roll out the software, you still need that other user to use it, right? So you still need to be aware of all that. And it's important for us to be aware that people have different abilities and different tendencies,
Yes, agree. So you have to kind of look at, it's really hard to sometimes to even make those decisions, right? And some people, decision makers, some company, they say this is how we want it. It's that simple. But then that's out of building better software, right? Then we are just building software. It's not better software.
That's true.
Our goal is really, how do you build what you already have, right?
Yeah, they already have that. The whole point is we're trying to do it better. Yeah.
Yes. So, all right, let's move to the next part, right? So, no, stay here, Simon. We're going to stay on the screen a lot. This is really the meat of today's talk. I know we take a break between, I guess after 30 minutes, but today we just need more. We don't need break probably today. Let's keep going. So what I personally do is, I know some architects don't do. When I'm even building some ideations, I like to be at least those end users to part of it, early stage. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah. The sooner you can get a group of people together, a diverse group of people, right? This is where, we talk a lot about diversity, and it comes in handy in so many ways. Diversity doesn't just mean, we could talk about, racial and ethnic diversity. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about diversity within the skill set, right? Different people have different ways of thinking, and bringing in a group of people during the ideation stage or during all these stages is great. So engage, bring people in, and have, even we have testers, right? In our organization, different people work different ways. We have testers, we have BAs, we have developers. We want a little of everybody. We want, executives in the room. We want developers in the room. We want the end users. It's what happens when you put different people in a room together. That's when the magic happens, right? That's when the ideas, one person has this, maybe this is a good idea. And then they hear the other people go like, yeah, that's great. And then momentum starts to build around ideas.
Yep. And also keep in mind the time is important, money. So we got at some point, we keep that also minimum, so that you don't spend like 3 months just discussing ideas, right? So that's again very important. So next point is part of the team, which we kind of already covered. So my goal always is like the end user, when you're building a tech team, building the team to build the software, at least those partial of those group has to be part of the team. So they are available to us whenever we need them. So it's like they are kind of accessible. Let's just say right word. And they become the beta testers, right?
Yeah, sometimes they do. But what's really important? You mentioned something, how important it is for them to be part of the team. And so it's really important that the leaders of this project, whether they be the software developer, whoever, needs to be upfront with the users of what we expect from them. Right? A lot of times wait, what do you mean I'm part of the team? You want me to be around regularly? I say, yes, we do. We want you to come to our meetings. Like you're stuck with us now. You're part of this thing. But they have to be able to make that commitment. Otherwise, we might have the wrong user.
Yeah, listen, when we do estimates for all these projects, you will find one line there's that we need these people, their names, at least 10 hours a week or 12 hours a week, and that has to be part of. So we need to know the dates, and obviously you cannot just go and ask them anytime, but we just schedule like these 2 days, we need 5 hours each from you. So that kind of becomes a part of the of the team. And then obviously whenever we are building these POCs, or even forget POCs, even like prototypes, like screens, right? You just always show them what we are building, how they like it, at least not working or functioning, but at least the UI, how it's going to look like, and give them the idea how it's going to work. And also any new ideas we are trying to enhance or improve in that existing process, they are part of that also.
Yeah, well, we often call that, that goes towards shortening the feedback loop or the feedback cycle. The sooner we have people participating in those we don't want to, I always like to go back and remind people, and I think you'd probably be with me on this. I've made all these same mistakes. I've done it all the wrong way too. We weren't born with this knowledge that we're trying to impart with people. We've discovered this, we've heard it from other people, we've learned from our mistakes and things like that. I've had plenty of times in my software development career where we had an idea and I said, no problem. And we're going to put together a proof of concept. And it took months, to build this detailed proof of concept, or, maybe months is an exaggeration, but a long time, only to show it to the users and find out they say, well, no, you totally missed it. This is not what we wanted. So we want to shorten that feedback cycle. We want to close the loop and have them come in early and say, well, this screen is not done yet, but you can maybe get a feel for what we're doing here. Am I in the right direction, Mr. or Mrs. User? What do you think about this? And they say, yeah. And they can and guess what? It's easier for me to make changes when I haven't gone too far, right? If I put the whole thing together and there's 45 different buttons and they say, well, we want to change the size of all of them, or, rearrange the whole page. Well, if I knew that at the beginning, my layout would have been easier if I asked them sooner, right? So it's everybody's best interest to shorten that cycle.
Yeah, and you just said it. You want to shorten the cycle, and that was the end goal. I mean, end goal of build better software is, shorten that, build whole time, right? Time is the key, which also end up being less costly, right? Earlier, it's because more time you will take, obviously, is going to get costly. So definitely good point right there. And then last thing is acceptance. When we are build something and it's going live, before it goes live, they have to be part of that. Oh yeah, this is it. This is what we wanted in the beginning. This is what you are building halfway through, and this is the final product, and this kind of we like it. So we kind of need their approval seal as well, at least from them, before we put it to QA and staging and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah.
if you don't do that, if you bring in a new user to do the acceptance, then the new user might not understand the original requirement. So yeah, keeping that person through the team and having them be a part of this cycle is great, Mahesh. So the way
All
you're
right.
explaining this, I think it's great for people. Yeah.
So everybody who's joining us, welcome. I see Ashana, Akshika, Aditi, Saloni, welcome to the show. Great comments, everybody. Thank you for all these good comments. We also have a question from Saloni. Let's take the question right now. Is there any role for a developer in requirement gathering? What do you think on that, Andy?
So so this question is from Aditi, I believe, and yes. Now every organization, every development team has a different structure. Okay, some development teams have a developer, and the developer's job is specifically to help gather requirements. Some teams have a person potentially called a BA or business analyst, and their job is to gather requirements. But I would say that no matter what the layout of the team is, no matter what kind of roles you have defined, it is always part of the developer's job to help gather requirements, right? It might not be their sole responsibility, but they should help, right? It's really important for the developer. I think it's really important for the developer to be involved in the requirement gathering process, because we're going to be coming at it from a different perspective. Right? Because I think of myself as a software developer, even though I don't get to do as much development as I like these days, but we have a different perspective. And so we're going to think of different questions that other people might not ask. Now, if you have a great business analyst on your team, it's excellent to work with them and have them, they're going to come at it from a different perspective as well. But I think the short answer to the question is yes, certainly there is a role for developer in gathering the user requirements.
I mean, they may not be to add to that what you said. Yes, they may not be spending a lot of time with the end user and writing the content, but once you get the content, they have to kind of read it, understand, and ask all the questions and put them in the requirement if anything they think is missing.
Yeah, and it's actually a good experience for developers, even if you have dedicated, business analysts. It's an interesting thing for a developer to spend some time in that role and understand. I've worked at places where I was expected to do, wear multiple hats and be somewhat of an analyst and things like that. And it's a skill set, right? Learning and getting good at that. And so it's important for developers to be good at it as well. Don't think of it as just a thing like, oh, I'll get some requirements. Think about it as like, can I be good at doing this? Right.
Yep.
Can I want to, if you're going to do it well. Right. And to think about it. Right. And put some thought into the process.
Yeah. So there's another question. Let's take one more question before we go to the previous screen. Is Amos says, do you have to analyze requirements to check if they are feasible? And I can add to that, and then Andy, you can add. The answer is yes. So after requirements are gathered, the next phase really of software development is analyzing. The feasibility analysis is the important part. Means, can you really do those things, what's written in the requirement? Because sometimes, I meet these customers, they will write all this in one page, just one page. They will write that will take you 6 years to build. Right, so you have to really break that down, write the details. Usually architects are the right people who just does that. They do that work, like they look at the requirements, they then look at the big picture. They decide, okay, what technology are we going to use it? How many people we need? What kind of skill set we need? How much time it's going to take us to build? So that all becomes a part of feasibility analysis.
Yeah, Amos, this is a good question. I think to add to what Mahesh is saying, we not only do we want to, make sure they're feasible, but we want to return good feedback to the team, explaining the difference in the feasibility of the requirements. And let me think of an example here, where sometimes we'll get some requirements, and everybody, without maybe the developer being involved, and they say, well, we need to do these 5 things in order to do this project, and we're shooting for 3 months or 6 months on this project. And I say, well, I want you to understand this 5th requirement, or maybe the 3rd, it doesn't matter which, but one of these requirements is really complicates things, right? And what if and so as a developer, you can provide that feedback, say, well, what if on that 3rd requirement, we did it a little differently? It's not exactly what you asked for, but this other thing, how would that work? Because maybe if we did it that other way, I could take this from a 6-month project down to a 4-month project, because that one thing is going to really blow this whole thing up. So it's our job to provide that kind of feedback. Now, we have to accept the answer we get. They may say, no, the way we wanted it is the way we need it to be. Okay, then it's a 6-month project. It's not a 4-month project, but we want to be that kind of feedback is where the developers can really excel.
Yeah, the decision maker, the product, you can call it product manager, we can call it project manager, we can call it architect, or combination of all. Whoever is the guy or girl decision maker on that, saying, yes, we can deliver that, they have to be upfront, and otherwise you will get in trouble. You say, okay, it will be done in 3 months, and it's not done, then you're screwed, right? So you have to make sure that time as well. That's important part, is that time plus and then back to you had a good point there, is that, we had a client where it's like, I want this to be working in 3 months on the web. It's AR, VR. I was like, listen, web we cannot do in 3 months, but what we can do is we can do an iPhone in 3 months. Once people start using iPhone, then we're going to migrate that, because web technology is totally different than the iPhone. So then they got it, like, oh, that makes sense. So this is our role as architects or experts in that, to be upfront and be honest and transparent with the business. So let's go back to our screen. Well, great questions, everybody. Awesome. These questions make this session more interesting, engaging, and feels like at least somebody's watching us. So keep those questions
you
coming.
Great people.
Yeah.
Great people.
Thank you for all these awesome questions. Yeah. Thank you for all these awesome questions. Go back to the previous screen, please. So this is what kind of it's a kind of my thought process on that. What should be the key goals of requirement gathering? And when I'm saying requirement gathering these days, those days are gone where you are just sitting 3 months and writing requirements. These days, people just go and put their requirements in Jira, which is fine, as long as we capture those requirements the right way. So goal should be of requirements is understanding the problem, right? Understanding and documenting the problem. And based on that, it will also help us what are the technology decision we are going to make, like what technology is really going to work for us, right? Is it a Angular, is it a Blazor, or is it a iOS app, or in what database we need, then or what kind of team we need, right? What kind of skill set we need to build that, because requirements, based on requirements, it all drill down to all these decisions, right? You agree?
Yeah. It's an interesting point that if you assemble the team early, then you're going to assemble, let's say you have got a bunch of great people that are great with working with a SQL database. But if then you make the technology decision that says, we don't need a SQL database, right? And so you maybe put the cart before the horse there. Hopefully you have a good idea of how to put that team together in advance, because you have a basic idea of what kind of people you need. But now you have a chance to pull in experts in different areas because you've helped make the technical decisions based on understanding the problem. And it's important to do it, in the right order, because you don't want to, otherwise you start to get into, there's a thing we call the golden hammer, right? I'm sure you've heard that, where you say, you don't want to use the same tool for every job. And so you want to be able to think about, like, what really is the problem? What is the best way to do this, right? And it's really important that you don't just, sometimes during the requirements process, people make assumptions. They'll say, last year we did this project where we did these, 5 steps from the technical side of things. And then, so the next project comes along and people say, well, let's just take that same template. Let's just do those 5 things. And no, let's first make sure that we're, what's the best way we can do this? What's the right way to do this? We always want to look at that.
Yep. And then requirement also becomes the references for architects, developers, and testers, and everybody else later. So we can go back. Doesn't matter where, if you're using agile or non-agile, doesn't matter. And then it also end up impacting the schedule, the cost, the delivery, and resource, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of key goal of requirements. I think we have covered that. So now, thank you everybody for, commenting. Great. Live Truth Gaming is commenting. Thank you for the shout out. Awesome. Great for watching us. Let's go back to one more screen. That's my points. We kind of messed up. I kind of messed up all these screens today. So this is kind of my guidelines, Andy. When you are writing requirements, if you are responsible, or if you are reading a requirement, what should be included that if it's not, right? And what makes sense when you are getting end users involved. So that's kind of 2 things covered in there. So end users should have credibility, right? The one you are picking, those end users out of 50, you're picking 2 guys, make sure they are the right people. You cannot just pick anybody who doesn't know and explain the problem, right? You agree with that?
Totally. And we sort of touched upon some of that stuff before,
yes.
But I like this list of bringing it back together here. You definitely want to have credibility, and
And then sometimes you have to go to on site. There should be a real work. You cannot just go out on the phone and say, how do you do this process today? Can you explain me? Better is probably you go there when you are collecting the requirement and actually sit down with them, look at what they're doing, how they're doing. I have visited so many plants when we were working on those, just to see there. Like if you're working on a water problem, you don't need to go there, but it's good to go there, because then that's how you think, oh, these are the people who are going to use your app.
Yeah. How many times have you had this circumstance where you got some requirements and someone says, well, first I do step 1, then I do step 2, then I do step 3. You go, okay, great. That sounds like I understand the requirements. I'm going to come and sit down with you and spend a day with you and see what goes on. And they do step 1, and you're expecting them to do step 2, whatever that was, making these things up. And all of a sudden they turn over and they enter some data in some other system, and then they do step 2, and you go, wait, what was that? And they go, that's just a thing that we do in between steps 1 and step 2. Well, you didn't mention that. And they say, well, I didn't think that was really important. Or I thought you knew that there was that other step. So, being on site and like being with the users and seeing them do the job that they're trying to do, or whatever the process is tremendous experience.
Yep. And then obviously we covered this also, that you build simple use case prototypes and then show them and get the feedback right before you actually build them. We covered that already. And then if you're building, this is important, right? We talked about this, is if there's something new idea you are trying to implement or introduce it to them, you have to kind of explain first. And I'll give you my example is in one of the recent systems, we are building for Alexa. And we also said, listen, Alexa is great. What if people don't have Alexa? What if they are accessing your website on the phone? How about we introduce voice feature on the phone app? They're like, whoa, this is great. This is great. Then I don't need to type. Like, yeah, you don't need to type. And guess what? They loved it. So you kind of have to explain that. And I think it's also a good idea if you can talk to them about in some real use cases where they're used to, either like they do on Facebook or they do on these common apps where they can relate.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said it. I couldn't agree more. It's great.
Yeah. And then, then develop standards. Obviously, goal is to make sure there is a design guidelines based on that requirements, and then you go and convert your prototypes to functional app and let them play it, let them use it, and see what they think. Definitely encourage them for critics, what they don't like.
Yeah. So for the developers out there, I'm gonna criticize one word on your sixth bullet there.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to be specific, just to be critical here, I don't try to convert a prototype into a functional app. What you want to do is throw away the prototype, or at least put it aside and start all over again, right?
Good point. Yeah.
Often what happens is we have these prototypes that we built and we take a lot of shortcuts in there. And it often seems like it's kind of like, oh, it's almost ready, right? Well, the best thing to do is go back to the beginning and start all over again and following your best practices with writing code. The shortcuts, you want to get rid of those shortcuts that you took during prototyping stage and phase and things like that. So Mahesh, I'm sort of picking on you a little bit there, but I guess it just depends on what the word means to different people, but you don't want to upgrade your prototype. You want to start all over. That's a tip for developers.
That's a good point. I like it. I think it has, I've seen in some startup world, it's like they build a prototype. They're like, oh, it's already working. Let's launch in 3 months, or let's launch it next week. And they just try to add more to the same thing and things fail. A very good point. No, definitely a good point there. So, and then obviously, that last two things, make sure whatever you're adding to the existing requirement, document all that. And then, one piece at a time, try to do, as you cannot do all that in one big deal. So agile is the approach these days. These days, people don't really write full requirement. They'll write one module and then go and focus working on that. They'll write one user story, then write, different, cases from that and go from there. So this is kind of guidelines. So everybody, let's go back. Everybody, if you're joining us, I know we are kind of almost running out of time. Welcome to the show. I see more people joining in. Good comments. Your comments are really motivator to us, at least. So we feel like somebody's watching it. What's Sean saying? Let's read that. Very good point about starting over. Yes, definitely great point. We do that sometimes, these shortcuts, and in long run, shortcuts are not a good idea. All right, great. So go back to Simon, if you can skip back, and I think you go to the last slide. We are almost coming to the end. Yeah, so these are more question and answers. Anybody else have any questions? We have 1 more minute. Oh, by the way, anybody wants to come in the show behind the scene, hang out with us? Just let Simon know and he'll let you in. Anybody wants to join in, right? Here's the URL. You can just go to this URL. Sean, you want to come chime in? Come join us. If you click on that URL, you can just come hang out with us. We have 2 minutes.
Can I get a few plugs in also?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to remind everybody, if you don't mind, this is a great show. I love being a guest. I think it's my second time being with you. I've also had Mahesh on my show. I have a show called the Dev Talk Show, where we live stream Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's similar to this. We talk about all kinds of things for software developers. We do demos. We write live code. Sometimes we just talk about topics that are interesting to developers. We have guests, and we have a lot of fun. And it's kind of like what Mahesh was saying earlier on. People want to ask questions. So we bring in interaction just like this, right? Interaction throughout the show. And, we always say that it's like when we used to go in person out to user group meetings, right? And at the end of the meeting, everybody would stand around in the hallway. Oh, there's our YouTube site. Yeah, thank you. Everybody would stand around in the hallway and we'd continue to talk. We'd ask the speaker questions. We'd ask each other questions. We'd continue that to the parking lot or in the hallway. And that's what I think shows like, Mahesh, what you're doing and shows like what we're doing. We bring those questions in real time and we just open it up and have some fun. And thanks for showing. You can go to youtube.com/the Dev Talk Show. And you can.
I like the name.
Great.
Yeah, it's easy to remember.
Thanks. Yeah, we just talk about things that are important to developers, which is what you do as well. Right? And you've been a guest. I'm sure you could scroll through and see the one with your face on it somewhere. Trying to think of when was it there. Maybe we didn't use the pictures at the time. We changed our. Where are you? You were towards the beginning, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while. I need to get back.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, we probably didn't use the thumbnails at the time.
Yeah.
And we're doing some new thumbnails and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyway,
you're also wearing a
just want
Tech
to
Bash
plug that.
T-shirt, so you want to talk about Tech Bash?
Sure, thanks. Tech Bash
Yeah.
is a conference for software
So you
developers.
show your T-shirt more. It's kind of a little bit more. Yeah, there you go.
Here we go.
Look at that.
Techbash.com. Techbash.com is a conference for software developers in person. Mahesh has been there. We hope to have
Awesome
you come out
place.
again this year. It's basically in Pennsylvania in the Poconos. So sorry for people that are around the world. Maybe not perfect for everybody. You can go to techbash.com and see that our event this year is October 19th to the 22nd. We're starting to hear feedback from people that people are excited that in the US at least, maybe we can get out to an in-person conference. I think some people, including myself, we're a little skeptical about the idea of actually seeing people, but we're excited. And of course, if things don't work out to be safe, we won't have the event, right? But we're planning for it now. We've got a call for speakers, and you can get to all that information from techbash.com, and or you can always find me. I think I had it on my thing at Schwami is my Twitter handle, and you can always ping me, and I can share any information with your audience or whoever. Maybe I'll put it in the chat here. How about that?
Yeah. And in the meantime, I think everybody who's watching us, if you like it, feel free to share with all friends, coworkers, let them know about it. More people join us, more people ask questions, more engaging it gets. I can bring more guests.
Yeah, it's in everybody's best interest. All the people that are here that are watching this show, I remind you guys and girls, guys generically there.
Yeah,
when you hear about Mahesh having a show, tweet about it, because the more people that join in, they're going to bring different questions that you might not have, different perspectives. The more we share this thing and build our community, the better it is for all of us, right?
Yeah. Yep. All right. So we got one more question. Yeah, let's take that. Why not? Yeah, this is a good one.
Well, so I just want to make sure we're clear on this. What I said to redo the whole thing, I was talking about taking a prototype and not and not let the shortcuts go into it. But if you're going live and then you have some problems and development goes over, the code is messed up. No, I don't think you need to redo the entire code. I mean, it really would depend on how messed up it is. But I think typically we want to do refactoring. If you have great unit testing, it's going to make it a lot easier to do refactoring safely, because you're going to know that the features are tested well. But so I hope I'm answering that question correctly.
Yeah, and I can add. Right? So,
Yeah,
I can add more is that sometimes it's not even feasible to do that, because it might take you a lot of time and cost, right? So you have to look at all those variables. If nothing wrong with it, it's working, and you don't have resources, it may not be possible, right? So you have to look at all those factors. But that was point was from prototype, not just use the shortcuts in the big solution out there. We have Venkat. Yeah, Venkat, thank you for your great comment. We would love to have you back again. Oh, again, guys, remember last show we had Venkat on the show live. He joined in live. That was amazing. So we want you to guys next time be ready. Come live in the show. Bhaskar, you want to come say hi? Oh, there you go, Sean.
Hey,
look at
Sean.
that.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, Sean.
He's all professional.
Yeah, I didn't have time to do my hair or anything. But.
Sean's mic's not working.
It's working. India, I think I can hear him.
Oh, I can't hear it. That's interesting.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sean. What's going on? Where are you joining us from?
The outer Philadelphia area, little suburb nearby Philadelphia. So
Awesome. Yeah. So what do you think of the show? You have any questions for Andy or me?
No, I think there's a lot of good points. I really like the point about refactoring or starting over from a prototype, because I feel like a lot of times someone will see a prototype and say like, oh, like there it is, it's done. So and then you who has been working on it from the code side, you're just like, no, it's not. You have like magic strings and numbers pasted everywhere. It's like it's not a good thing.
Exactly. Everybody thinks, oh, it's done. All you have to do is no, it's not done, right? There's, a lot of people when they build prototypes, specifically use some it's a prototype, but it's a real application. But they'll specifically use like a different framework where the UI, it's really clear that it's not the official real UI. Like they'll use grade scales when you're trying to test functionality. Now you can't really do that if you're trying to prototype the actual look and feel of an application. But those are cool tips.
All right, we got another guest. Bhaskar, how are you? Where are you joining us from?
Hi, good morning. I mean, I'm from India. Thank you for taking me in.
No, great. Good to have you here.
It's great to have people from around the world.
Yes, so I just wanted to share a couple of words from my side. Is I'm so relaxing, while watching this show, and I started my comment like, when I'm watching this kind of, shows, and I feel relaxed. And in fact, when you are taking a break from your work, you are still, learning a couple of things. So I really like this show, and I will urge other people to, in fact, at least watch sometime. You will definitely learn many things. Hi, Sean.
Yeah, so our goal really, again, everybody who's watching, our goal is really not to bring the knowledge you read in books or trainings, right? We want to bring the real world knowledge, which is hands-on, which is we go through every day, these problems. And you don't find them. So how do you deal with them, or how do you tackle them? That's the really goal here. And do you agree?
Experience does matter. Experience does matter. So that's why, the people who are in the industry since long, you can, take that experience as your learning tips. So all good.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. It's important to, read and study, and, whether you like to get certifications or not, all those things are really valuable, right? Read blog posts. But, we've had other shows. I think I was on something else, I guess with Mahesh. I think it was one of your shows. And people were asking, well, how long does it take to become an expert on a particular topic? And you can't answer that, but you can't really time box it either until you can go through and quite frankly, until you can go and fail at things a few times, right? And learn the pitfalls. Hopefully you don't fail miserably, but we all fail in small ways and make mistakes, right? Failure is not always a bad thing, especially when you look at the scope of your career. It's those failures that give you the insight. It's those bumps in the road that give you insight to become a better developer, and surrounding yourself with more experienced developers is a great way to do it. Now, some people have that at work. Some people can, pre-COVID, walk down the hall and there's all these other developers and you can engage with them and learn things from them. But some of us do that on the internet, right? Some of us do it here, where I learn things and I'm still learning. Right. Thank you, Mahesh, for having me as the guest, but I don't know everything, right? I learned things from Mahesh. I learned things from Bhaskar and from Sean on this show, and from questions that people ask. We're all learning, and we're all doing it together.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. And I think anything last word you guys want to say before we close it? We have 10 minutes. We can keep talking all day, but yeah.
I would just say the thing about the experience really matters, like the real world experience, because I spend a lot of time as a hobbyist developer, not in the software industry. Finding any advice from someone who actually works in the industry is just so valuable. Like they're like wizards in the area. So just getting the tiniest bit of real world experience really translates really far from just the conceptual side of things. That's all.
Cool. Yeah, take that hobby and turn it into, build something great.
Bhaskar?
Yes. So see, my punchline is, thank you very much, having these kind of shows. and that's really eye opener shows, right? You can't really have all these expertise when you are going looking forward and searching over the internet. It's just I feel like blessed, like uh, having these kind of shows in my vicinity. So thank you very much, Mahesh, and everyone to keeping these kind of shows. It's a great learning, it's a relaxing, it's everything to me. I mean, I really appreciate. Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you for coming on the show. Now, before we close, let's talk about next week. Next week, we are going to focus on next week. We're going to drill down more into SDLC, software development life cycle, and roles of different people involved in it. Means what does architect does, what does project manager does, what the programmers do, testers, QA, and all so on and so forth. So we are going to cover that next week. And everybody who's watching us, thank you so much for joining us today. And everybody who posted comment, thank you very much for posting comment, because those comments made our lives easier. You guys joining us here in person, that's all amazing and awesome, because guess the excitement going on, looks like somebody's there with us. It's not just, we're not just talking to the screen. So everybody, thank you so much, and enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week, Friday, 12 noon Eastern.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.